Hi everyone. My name is Jerry Wise, and today I want to talk about narcissistic parents and things they will never admit to. I've been working with clients and folks for over 45 years, and I've helped hundreds, if not thousands, of people to get their family of origin and dysfunctional family and narcissistic parents out of them so they can be their true selves. Today, what will narcissistic parents never admit to? Narcissistic parents overall cannot admit to reality. Their mental and emotional survival is dependent on lies, denial, distortion, and rejecting accountability. They cannot admit to reality. And I think if we can absorb that truth and realize they can't admit to reality, then we might be able to move on to a healthier self because we don't have to change them. And I'll talk about that towards the end. Each of us have a strong desire to share the same reality with our family, with our parents growing up, and as adults. That's a normal, natural feeling and desire for a human being to share a reality with their family growing up and with their family when they're adults. But what happens when your family is a reality-denying family, like a narcissistic parent, narcissistic family? And by the way, when I say a narcissistic family, I don't mean everybody in the family is a narcissist. But if you have a dominant parent who is a narcissist, it's going to affect everyone, and they're going to absorb that super self of the narcissist, and everybody will be denying reality. And then you may end up as a scapegoat or a truth teller or looking underneath the skirt of the family or lifting up the skirt, I guess is what I should say, and how difficult that will be for you if you are in that role. And with this desire to share that reality, this can keep us enmeshed with the narcissistic parent, even way on into our adulthood. And that's kind of what we call trauma bonded. When you've been traumatized, you get bonded to your traumatizer, or at least bonded to the traumatizing dynamics of what had happened. So how do you feel when you confront a narcissist about physical abuse? And what happens when that happens? And how do you feel when they deny it and ask you why you're making it up or why you're lying? How does that feel? It feels horrible. And at first you're going, well, no one would lie about what's so obvious. Am I right? Could I have it wrong? No, you don't have it wrong. You do remember it as you remember it. And they don't wish to remember it, and they don't wish to admit it or to be accountable for their own behavior. And so they will deny that, distort that, project that. I've had some parents that saying, let me tell you who the abuser was. It wasn't me, Sally. It was you when you were growing up. You were so awful. And I had to scream at you because you never listened. I had to beat you, or I had to physically use corporal punishment because you would not behave. And again, it turns the tables. And that, of course, creates craziness within us. Because it's crazy when people do that. So what are some of the other things that narcissistic parents will never admit to? Their mistakes and faults. Their manipulative behavior. Just try to get someone who's a narcissist to admit to their manipulating behavior. You probably already have tried, and you probably already know what the result would be. Their passive-aggressive behavior. They're not going to admit to that. And most people who are passive-aggressive never admit to their passive-aggressiveness. That's what passive-aggressive is. They can't admit that because they are using that defense mechanism of passive-aggressiveness to not have to look at their reality. And again, all of these things that I'm going to mention are so the narcissist parent doesn't have to look at their reality. Their role in family dysfunction, their role in causing so many problems in the family. Is a narcissistic parent going to go, oh, yeah, you're right. I know I've kind of created all that stuff. No. That their actions, beliefs, and feelings don't affect you negatively. In other words, oh, well, you're just too sensitive. Even though I went to school, embarrassed you in front of the teacher and all of your class, well, I don't know why that should upset you. You're just too sensitive. What? You came to class, made a scene, embarrassed me, shamed me in front of my teacher and all of my fellow students, and you don't think your actions really shouldn't have affected me negatively. They're not going to admit that. Their need for control, they're not going to admit. Their jealousy and envy, their insecurities, they cannot admit. They can't admit the real reasons behind their judgments and hypercriticalness, being ever so critical. They can't own their own reasons for that. They also cannot own or accept their fears of being exposed. They have fear of being exposed, and they'll never admit that. They'll never admit their use of love or favor as a conditional tool. Conditional love. Just try to get a parent who's a narcissist and see if they'll accept the fact that, don't you think you're practicing conditional love here, Mom or Dad? Oh, heavens, you'll never get a yes out of that. When you know and it feels very, very real as conditional love, they're not going to admit their dependence on external validation. In other words, why they had to go and make a big deal over this, that, and the other regarding you so that they could feel better about themselves, and that need for external validation. So what can we do? And how can we deal with these denials and lack of acceptances? If you go down to the description below, you can see a program I have mentioned, Your New Self. And, discovering your new self, that with that self and that program, you can find the ways to detach yourself from this very problem of parents who are not accepting and taking responsibility for their own behavior and their own choices. First of all, stop waiting on any of these. If you're waiting on them to accept the fact, and I just talked to 2 people today who had difficulties with waiting on their parents or parent to accept the fact of how badly they treated them as a child. And of course, the parents do all kinds of dancing, maneuvering, talking around the bush so they never have to accept that. They can't accept that. They're not going to accept that. And if you're waiting on that to feel better, then you put your feeling better future in their hands. I don't want to put my feeling better future in anybody's hands but mine. I'm the one who needs to be in control of me feeling better. And so they don't have to do anything for me to feel better. If they're not going to accept it, then they don't accept it. If they're not going to take responsibility, they're not going to take responsibility. Why do I need them to take responsibility? Well, first of all, because it's fairly normal, reasonable, common for adults to take responsibility for their own actions. But those are normal rules. When you involve a narcissist, you have non-normal rules. We have to play by non-normal rules because they're not the same. I would hope my friends who are sane and kind and care about me would take responsibility for their own behaviors. And they would. But if you start talking about narcissistic and dysfunctional parents and families, they won't. And so we can't wait on them to start being normal. Stop waiting on your family to become normal. And giving that up can be very difficult. And in the program Road to Self, I will help you to give that up and give that up forever so that you can become you. Second of all, which is sort of the same thing, but stop gaslighting yourself. Give up the fantasy. Your parent, who's a narcissist, lives by gaslighting and lives by fantasies. That has gotten transferred over to you. And then we gaslight ourselves and we live off of fantasies. Don't feel bad about yearning for fantasies. That's not unusual. Narcissistic families program us to hold out for fantasies. Rather, healing through acceptance and a radical acceptance of the way things are, and we can stop holding out hope and focus on your healing and recovery when we stop waiting for things to get better. Well, if I only did this, or if I only said this, or if I only talked to her this way, or if I only said these words, or if I only sent her to Jerry because Jerry would help her see that she needs to see that reality. That's not going to work either. I'm not a magician, and I can't undo a personality disorder just by some therapeutic intervention. I wish I could. I really do. So we want to start giving up that our fantasies and stop holding out hope and focus on your healing and recovery. Thirdly, ask, if I no longer waited on my family to change, what would I be feeling? What would I be thinking? What would I be doing? And in the program I have listed there are many more tools and helps and assignments for you that could help you with this very important practice. I want to thank you for watching today. Please subscribe. Please comment, and I will comment on YouTube comments. There are likes. I hope you'll like this video. And I want to thank you for joining me today. Have a great day and be wise.